Yo, what's going on YouTube? It is Dom, aka KT2, and I'm coming back to you guys again for yet another video. Today, guys, I've got my homeboy Fritz with me right here.
Hey, what's going on?
He's here to bless you guys with another interview of an officer, right? Thank you, Fritz, for coming on the show today.
Hey, anything for you, bro.
So, the first question is, right? What is your MOS? What do you do so the world can know?
I'm a 42 Bravo, so that's a human resources officer, essentially doing HR stuff for the Army, to put it plainly, yeah.
So, to be specific, that would be AG, right?
That would be AG.
Adjutant General.
Adjutant General.
So
yeah.
all the ROTC, the OCS, and the West Point people they'll know that you're an AG officer, correct?
100%, yeah.
Okay. What rank are you?
So I'm a first lieutenant, about to be a captain, yeah.
Great. I know your current job right now. So guys, his current job right now is not really applicable to what AG officers usually do. He works at G1, which is not something that they normally do. So we're going to talk about S1 and company level stuff, okay?
Okay, perfect.
So can you tell us what you've done at the company level? And you have been on staff, correct?
I have been on staff. I worked with you, actually. I was in the S1, and we can start with that, actually.
Okay.
I was working in the S1 for about 6 months, almost a year. So an S1 is basically the HR section in a battalion-sized element, meaning like people who serve between 500, I would say between 200 sometimes to like 1,000 troops. And we do like HR stuff from like processing awards, helping with evaluations, helping with administrative actions, like if someone's going to get punished with an Article 15, we help process that. We help process things like, especially here overseas, things like extensions. So if someone wants to extend, well, let me backtrack. Every time someone goes overseas, they have something called a DEROS, and that's like the date that you're allowed to leave the country, like Germany, Belgium, whatever country you're stationed at. And if someone wants to extend, we call it an FSTE, and that's a Foreign Service Tour Extension. We help with extending, but also an FSTC, which is curtailing, meaning if someone wants to go to a school earlier, if someone wants to do an assignment, like a special assignment back in the States, and we help process things like that.
Just a whole bunch of soldiers.
Just a whole bunch of soldiers-focused, oriented stuff, yeah.
Okay, so what did you do at the company level?
So at the company level, I'll say this too, it's pretty cool because there's not that many HR companies, and if you're an AG officer, you don't get to spend a lot of time being in platoon leader, XO, or even sometimes a commander role. A lot of the times when you're a second lieutenant as an AG officer, they're going to put you in like an S1. I was a platoon leader for a personnel accountability platoon in the HR company. In the postal platoon, I was a PL for that, and then I was the XO for about a year and a half.
Let's just get straight into it. So, okay. What was your commissioning source?
So I was commissioned through ROTC, through what we call Senior Military College. So it was a military school, just like Texas A&M. It's another one. University of North Georgia, Virginia Tech. But Norwich was the first one. So it's basically ROTC.
I felt that flex. He said Norwich. y'all felt that flex, right? So okay, so let's bring you back all the way to ROTC time, right? And you're sitting there, and you've got, I think. When did you commission?
So I commissioned May 2017.
You've got all these jobs, all these basic branches. You got FA, you got quartermaster, which is actually the best branch, guys. It's the best branch. OD, TC, you got all these branch. You got
nursing. You got
all this stuff, right?
Yeah,
so what made you pick AG? What made you say, you know what? I'm gonna be an AG officer.
That's a funny story, actually. Short story. So my major is computer security, right?
Okay.
So I was like, and that doesn't even relate to AG.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I was thinking, I'm gonna be a signal officer. That was my first choice. AG was actually my third choice. And when I got AG, I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know what they do, but I'll try it out. After being in the Army for like a year, I mean, I decided that I really liked it, and I'm gonna stay and do a career course as an AG officer, and then maybe stay in for 20. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, later.
Okay.
But maybe stay in as an AG officer. So, yeah.
That's dope. Can you run us through, first we're going to talk about S1, and then we're going to talk about company level. So please run us through a casual, normal day as an S1 OIC, because you're the OIC, correct?
Okay. I was sometimes the OIC, but I was the assistant OIC, because one of our buddies, he was the OIC. Sometimes I would serve like for a month as the OIC. So I have OIC experience, but I was the assistant OIC per se. Yeah.
So can you run us through the day-to-day life, kind of like responsibilities?
100%. So, okay. What my job was, or what a daily life was like in an S1, typically was, in the mornings we would go through actions, right? So the way our processes would work was that we would get actions from the company. I would look at it before I could look at it, just for like grammatical errors, or I would look at it to see if the justification for a specific action was appropriate. That's one of the things that I would do. Also, you're familiar with staff life. We would have like command and staff.
Correct.
So I would have to prep slides like once every 2 weeks. I would prep slides. So I would do that for a couple of hours every couple of weeks. Okay. That's one of the things I would do. And then I would also do HR system transactions. So Emilpo, for example, for anyone who's looking to do AG, it's like a system for enlisted personnel and officer personnel, where you could do like you can add awards to your SRB, you can update your SRB, and I would do things like that for people as well. And then I would also help them update things in iPerms as well. So okay. just general stuff like that, yeah.
So just for the audience's knowledge, right? Did you have like a full 30-man staff in the S1? Is that something that you guys have?
Actually, no. We had the basic structure of an S1 is this. We have an OIC, who's a captain typically, or a lieutenant. We have an NCOIC, who's a sergeant first class, sometimes an E6 or a high-speed E5. And then we have a floor NCO, who's in charge of all the NCOs and soldiers on the floor, meaning like all the other soldiers who work in the S1. And that's typically an E5 or an E6. And then what we had was, we had that, and then we had like 3 or 4 other personnel, so a total of 7.
7 people.
Yeah. And
for a battalion-sized element.
For the largest, I mean, you know, largest special troops battalion, I think we were supporting like almost 1,000 people.
Yes, it was disgusting.
And we were supposed to only have like 3 companies. We had like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. RFF stuff. So yeah, we were always busy and understaffed. I'm sure your section was too.
Oh my God. That's interesting for the staff life, S1. So what was the day-to-day life like as an XO in an HR company?
So actually that was probably one of the most fun jobs I had, to be honest. And the reason I say that is because it was a lot of planning. I like to do a lot of planning, a lot of briefing, which sounds dull. I think people are like, oh, he likes to brief. Creating a product, showing it to your boss, and having pride in that product, and then actually doing like the logistics behind it is kind of cool to me. So I would do a lot of like logistics stuff. So meaning like if someone had another lieutenant had a range, I would like help facilitate that. If the boss wanted me to plan something like a farewell or something, I would do that. I would help manage and mentor all the lieutenants, because I mean I had a year or 2 more experience. So I would try to help them out if they needed help. My boss was amazing, and I think that's really important. If a boss encourages you but also gives you enough room where you can like freely have a creative mind and like try out your ideas, but also pulling you back if he or she is like, oh, let's think about it this way, but still keeping a long leash to you. That I think that's important in any career.
We've talked about your day-to-day life. You basically went over most of the responsibilities as well. Can you tell us, you know, maybe what are the top 3 benefits of, you say, being an AG officer?
Top 3 benefits. I think it's very personnel / like people driven. Meaning like we always work with people, like it's a people's business, especially in the S1, because you're sometimes affecting someone's life in such a positive or just in a general way that it's a lot of weight on your shoulders. But at the same time, when you actually do help someone, it's a good feeling. Second, I think, is the technical piece of it. Being an AG, I mean, I'm sure in other like specialties there's a technical aspect to it, but with AG, like there's a lot of HR systems, there's a lot of regs, and you have to know your stuff. Because if you ever work for like a lieutenant colonel as a battalion commander, then they're gonna want to know, like, especially if they're not an AG officer, they're gonna want to know, hey, how many people, like just personnel stats, how has the leave regulation changed, just things like that, and you're gonna have to study it because a lot of things are published all the time, like every year. And then the third thing I think is the people I've met personally. I say this and I hope it doesn't change, but all the people I've met in the AG community, they're just nice people.
Okay.
So those 3 things, I think.
Those were some very dynamic benefits. I think I wouldn't say knowing the regulations was a benefit to me. That's just because I hate regulations.
I think most people do, but like looking into it and like just studying it is cool too, I think.
Just about being an AG officer, what would you say that you like the most? The number 1 thing you like the most, and the number 1 thing you like the least.
Okay. So the number 1 thing I like the most Is it okay if I say the same thing that like my top one for benefits? I think it's just that you can actually affect change and you can see that sense of helping that person. I think is cool. The least is the stigma of AG officers in the AG community, or things that are not necessarily like combat related, because there are people who are AG officers who go to Ranger battalions. I'm not saying I'm going to one, or I will go to one, but I'm saying like people can be as fit in the AG community or in any sustainment branch as people in infantry. It's just the stigma, I think, is what I don't really like.
Okay, so right now it's no one's surprised that we are in Germany, okay? Is there anything specific to Germany that nobody else would really find in the AG community?
I would say in the AG community, but also in logistics or sustainment, or frankly any branch in the army. In Germany, I think that the op tempo is so high, the operational tempo is so high, and the missions that we have is so different than the States. People will be surprised, and I think people who work here as their first or second duty assignment will be much better prepared for like the career course, or if they plan on staying 20 years, they're gonna think that the States, I'm not criticizing the States at all, but they're gonna probably think that it's a little bit slower paced than what we do here.
Okay. Have you ever been deployed before?
No, I have not been deployed yet. I mean, I would be open to deployment for sure.
So you want to deploy?
I would say for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could change anything about just being an AG officer, if they said, you know what, hey, Fritz, come up, be a 4-star general for a day, change one thing about the AG.
Oh wow, that's a tough question. Just going back to what we've talked about before, maybe have more opportunities for AG officers / like AG person, like enlisted members or warrant officers, to do infantry like assignments. Does that make sense? Like, I know there's slots for it, like you can be in a BC tier or an IBCT or something. Just more slots for us.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of young officers don't plan to stay in for that long. Say there was somebody that, you know, came in through OCS like me that only has to do 3 years.
Right.
Let's say they get out, they pick AG. Is this going to transfer over to the civilian world?
For the most part, yes. But the one thing that I think I would suggest and recommend people is start taking like HR related certifications. If you don't plan on staying in the Army as an AG officer for 20 years or whatever, that'll definitely help you.
I know that so officers, just everybody doesn't know, officers don't have contracts, right? We just incur all these doggone obligations.
Right.
So you graduated from a military college.
Yes.
How long was your obligation?
I have 8 years, so
8 years.
I've done 4 years now, so yeah, 4 more years.
4 more years. Do you plan to stay in and continue to go after this 8 years, or do you want to get out and pursue something in the civilian world?
It's constantly changing, but at the moment, I'll stay until at least 2025, so the next 4 years, and then figure out if I want to stay in. But for the most part, I would say I would stay in. If something changes, life happens, of course. But I think I like my job, so I'll definitely probably stay in. If things change, like I said, nothing's guaranteed.
And last question, closing out this interview. Again, thank you for coming on the show today.
Of course.
If you could go up to and speak to all the AG officers that are, you know, day one in Bullock, if you give them any words of wisdom, right, before they started, what would you tell them?
I'd tell them a couple of things. I would say, hey, if you're a brand new lieutenant, I would probably try to find an HR company, or find a company where I can be a platoon leader and an XO for a year or two, and then probably take an S1, just for the first couple of years. Even if you're doing S1 only for 6 months or a year. I know some people don't know this, but you have to be a captain, right? In order to, we have these things called KD, which is key development in the Army. So KD is like jobs that are required to move up to the next rank, and if you don't complete those, then you're going to stay in the same rank or just get kicked out of the Army. As a lieutenant, there's no KD, so if you take an S1, it's not going to be credited per se. So, but I would still get the experience so that you're not thrown in as a young captain and then you're like, shoot, I don't know how to run an S1, but you should run an S1 as a lieutenant for sure. That is it, guys. Again, this is, you guys can shout out to Fritz. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you guys can hit me up on Snapchat or Instagram. Kyle, go ahead and drop that on the screen for me, please. I will talk to Fritz later, and if he wants to, I will leave his IG down there, but he may not want to, but I will talk to him about that. Like I always say at the end of all my videos, don't live the same year 75 to 80, 85, 90 times, and then try and call it life. My name is Dom. This is Fritz,
And we are out of here, guys. Peace.